Hey gang, it's Jeff from the JamesFreddys channel. One of the concerns when this car came into the shop was that the bodywork in this door might need a little bit of help. So the line was definitely off with the alignment, and I went ahead and took a clean strip disc and plowed into the bodywork. And even in like the deepest areas right here, it's not super deep, but we'll see if we can see what's going on here. And how many C's was that in one sentence? But we'll try and get an idea of what's going on here, but you know, because of the way that I plunged in there, and the only way to find out anyway is we're going to go ahead and strip all the filler work out of the door here and back here just to see what's going on. So I started out stripping this door with the thoughts that I would just pull it a little bit and take care of some stuff and maybe end up with a little bit less mud in it. And then when I started stripping it with that clean strip disc, door skin was running through my mind. But then I got through it all and I started thinking, well, I need to keep a positive attitude and not condemn something so quickly. And we still had that goal, the initial goal of keeping as much original sheet metal on the car as possible. But then I got down, so I came home that night after thinking about it all day, and I had some areas like this where there was still some filler down in lower spots around these welds here. So there's a bunch of little welds. Maybe used for shrinking, maybe used for old school dent pulling, I'm not quite sure. And when I was cleaning the Bondo out of those areas, there were holes in some of them already, and in others I was able to just push right through. So the truth of the matter is there's really nothing left to work with, unfortunately, in this area. Once you add a hardened weld with a MIG welder to the middle of a big piece of nice soft steel like this old muscle car steel is, it makes that area super hard and very difficult to work with when it comes to hammering, dollying, and pulling it out. It's just not as pliable anymore. But then when it's just so thin, like, it's just not going to be a long-term repair. So we're going to order us up either a good mark or an AMD skin. I believe that I checked out AMD's website, and at the time skins are going for $109, which is incredibly cheap, and they have a $25 oversized freight shipping charge, but I'm unsure as to whether that is $25 added on to whatever the cost of shipping that package is, or if it's just 25 bucks to ship it. If you can get a door skin for $135, that is an excellent price, and that's one of the reasons that I love these Camaros. These first generation Camaros are great for that. And then we've got damage right down here in this corner, and that is a notorious rust pocket for these skins. So I would imagine that rust was starting to form between the shell and the skin there and causing it to flake and expand and make a high spot. And then we've also got this really minor repair in the back here, but you start to add it up and you really got nothing to save here. Nothing for what would amount to a long-term repair. A new door skin has been ordered and should arrive approximately Wednesday of this week. So today, instead of messing around with any of that, I'm fairly sure that the subframe in this car is in a little bit crooked or a little bit off, and that's maybe what's the stem of some of our bad gap issues. So I pulled the hood off and set it out in the backyard, and now I'm going to pull the header, valance, grille, and fenders off the vehicle. That way we'll be able to back the car out a little bit of the garage, get up underneath and try to tram it out and measure it up with some dimensions I found online. We got the front sheet metal off the car, and I loosened up the subframe, and I broke out with my really slick, better than dent fixes and everybody else's homemade tram. That's right, way better. And we did a little bit of tramming the subframe to the car, and hopefully we're going to get a way better front sheet metal alignment. So I got online and I just did a quick Google search for first generation 1969 Camaro body dimensions, and in this particular car I'm not too concerned that the subframe got hit or anything, although maybe I should be, but there doesn't appear to be any reason to look at that. And I'm not too concerned that the rear frame rails are bad, because the car just seems to be in that good a shape. So what I was concerned with was the cross measurement of the rear frame rails to the front subframe here, which is labeled as F, and then also the wheelbase. Well, it's not the wheelbase, but it's the rear frame to the subframe, which is measurement G. And as you can see on these specs, they would also give you height measurements if you had it on a frame rack or something like that. But as you can see down here, we've got measurement F at, I believe it was 76, although it's kind of out of focus right now, and then measurement G at 65 1/4. So 76 inches and 65 1/4. Then we went over here to our tram and we put those measurements from tip to tip, and we started with the F, which was the cross measurement of 76, and then we finished out with the G measurement, which was the front and back, side to side. Let's get under the car and take a look. I am currently under the left side of the car and I'm looking towards the rear. This is the rear leaf spring. This is the rear leaf spring perch, and this is the hole that I'm looking at to take my dimensions from. So when I put my tram up in it, I want it to pretty much be centered into this hole. That's our rear body master point. Up in the front here, this is the measuring point we want to make it to. And this is also, you've probably heard of it, the dowel point, where GM apparently had, although I don't know, but I've heard that GM had some sort of dowel that went up through this hole and into the little hole in the body, and that's how they used to line up the subframe. So that's our front, and we're still on the left side, so that would be our G measurement of 65 1/4 to go from that rear frame rail hole to this, and then our cross would be to go over to the passenger side and go to that hole for the 76 inches. I also took the time to make sure that the subframe was side to side in the car by measuring from the pinch weld to the subframe in several spots. And I was able to move all this around just by loosening these subframe bolts. So that's just kind of the quick and the dirty as to how I start my initial measurements of getting this subframe of a first generation into spec with the car. That won't be the last time I tram out this. What's going to happen is I will start fitting the sheet metal, and then I'll be looking for certain signs that, you know, this door is coming up to the same spot on this A-pillar as that door is, and that the fenders are acting the way I want them to do. And I'll start by starting at the quarters. I'll align my door gaps, I'll align my fender gaps, I'll align my hood gaps, and I'll align my front sheet metal gaps. And then I'll go back and start refining them, and if stuff's not making sense, I'll go back under the car, retram it, go through, make sure I didn't miss something, and that's just the way I've done it. I was taught by people, and they were probably taught by people, and I've kind of added my own little bits to it, but it seems to work. I've been having good success with it on the past few cars, and that's how you tram a subframe in a first gen. By the way, I got a really sweet tram tool that's like professionally made and everything, and my buddy Rob borrowed that thing over a year ago. Isn't there some sort of law against that? So now that the front sheet metal is off the car, it's probably a good opportunity to attack the next custom mod we want to do to the vehicle, and that is to clean up and get rid of the stuff on the factory firewall. And so I'll show you some ideas and some thoughts we're thinking about that. But so far, we took those riveted plates off and all the rivets and all the stuff that were in the holes and exposed them, because we're going to weld that all up so that there's no chance of water getting into the passenger compartment and messing with it. So just doing a quick Google search, there's all kinds of different treatments and shaved firewalls and stuff you can do to flush out a firewall. You can even go to eBay and for $129 buy a really nice looking piece. So some of the things we're thinking about when it comes to the firewall is that HER distributors come close but don't touch back in here, so maybe we would want to relieve a little area. And then because we're going to go to the extent of doing our own custom bead rolled overlay, what designs would be cool? So you kind of get screwed in this video because there's no completion. We started a door repair video and ended up waiting on a door skin, which will arrive next week, hopefully Wednesday or something. And then we thought we'd go ahead and do a custom firewall setup, but you know, there's a little bit of process and stuff involved with getting started on a project in a vehicle. But I might actually benefit from this week's video because I'm sure some people might want to put some ideas out there for me to draw on, because I'm at a little bit of a blank as to how we want to do this design work on the firewall. I mean, I know how to get it done technically from a sheet metal standpoint, but I don't know what I want to do yet. So I'm going to keep that open, and it's going to be open for a couple of weeks, because if the door skin comes in, we'll go ahead and final out that video, so you might get to see some footage twice. Lucky you. And then we'll shave the firewall, get it all welded up, epoxied and all that, and then we'll do our firewall overlay. At that point, if that stuff's all epoxied and stuff, we can go ahead and shoot, I'm way ahead. That's like 16 videos from now. No, line the sheet metal up and do all that.
Hi everybody, I am Anna and I am Jeff's wife, and we would like to thank you so much for tuning in and watching our videos, or his videos, and we really appreciate your viewership. So thanks again. Next week should be an exciting new video, so check in with us again. Bye.